There we go. Hello, welcome to Snack. I am recording us.
Howdy.
Howdy.
There's something different today. There's 3.
I know, I'm back. Yay. Yay. Feels good. And I don't know if anyone else is going to show up or not. I suspect not, but I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sound going on. Maybe this is going to help if I turn some off. So organizing the audio, I think. Hi. Hello.
I'm going to change my view so that I can see, everybody a little bit better. Golly. There we all are. So Ruben and I were just talking about the fact that we're sort of halfway through the pandemic project and thinking that that might be a good opportunity. That might be a good opportunity for each of us, maybe in different ways, to use the halfway point to rejigger and think about the second half. Yeah.
I didn't come quite as prepared as I want to. I'm going to take 15 seconds.
Okay.
I apologize.
That's okay.
Put a little coffee in the boy. He will be more present.
So, all right, cool.
Well, would you like to start, Hannah, with I guess just talking about what it means to reassess, because you have, I think, of all of us, the clearest, the most intimate situation with what it means to come across something that you entirely did not expect and having to recalibrate everything.
Yeah. Well, in terms of updates, last night I found myself writing an essay in the middle of the night. Thank you both for your responses. It was really great to sort of talk about that. And then I actually met with my therapist this morning and had done all of this work in that essay, thinking about stuff, and actually got really clear. I got really clear that I have 3 priorities right now. Number 1 is my family. Number 2 is my clients. And number 3 is making sure that I do a good job in school. And if I can't, because I'm taking this program to become a professional certified coach. Right now I'm an associate certified coach, I think it's called. So, and it becomes very clear, like if I can't do school very well, then I just have to ask for an extension, or if things go really pear-shaped, I have to ask to join the next cohort and just not be part of this one. But so far so good. I did a ton of homework this week and caught back up to where I need to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I got my roots and branches really clear on the tree of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something really, and Mark, I know you've been through this a couple times in the last couple of years, where it has just become starkly evident what matters the most,
Yeah, it's also difficult too. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like Ruben was talking about that sort of just the pain of really wanting to do all the cool stuff that's in your head, and having to make choices and not do everything. So, I mean, basically, I've got a clear sense of mission. And as a person who has an interest-based attentional system, that makes me want to do all the things. So, but I have pruned back a lot. I just said no to a tennis team. I I just gave up the one gig I had for this spring, which was the only gig that I had planned for the last 15 months. So it was hard to relinquish that. But it also takes the performance. Well, first of all, I'm going to be 3,000 miles away. So, you know, unless they wanted to put me on the Jumbotron or something, I was gonna have to cancel anyway. But it's really nice in the sense that it's taken the pressure off of me to feel like I have to perform those obligations.
Mhm.
And one of the lovely things to come out of all of this is, like, for example, I can't be on tennis teams, right? I can't join USTA stuff or interclub stuff. But all of my friends are saying, we don't care. We just want to play tennis with you when you can, and let's have fun. So it's really interesting how recalibrating and not being so much focused on um, like performance and instead focusing just on the intrinsic value of things is actually opening up a lot of sweetness and connection. So, as I wrote in my essay, my new goal is to just see the guitar as something I can pick up in my free time and um, use to comfort myself and to allow me to be creative. I mean, Damien, when he wakes up in the morning, he's like in bed, like on his back, and he reaches out and he grabs his classical guitar and he plays a couple of Bach cello suites, you know, or or whatever. And when he's coding and then he's waiting for a job to run, he reaches out and he grabs his electric and he plays a little Big Brother in the Holding Company. You
I'm
know,
not the only person who does that. That's amazing. Wow.
no, like
Wow.
that's the way he
incredible.
rolls. Yeah. And when I think about the mental health benefits of noodling on the guitar versus like scrolling through social media or you know hunting on realtor.com for my next house or whatever, it's like way gonna be better for me to play guitar. So
Absolutely.
I think the places where I could use help from you guys in terms of the mastermind
Mhm.
element of this shebang is as I'm playing, as I'm practicing, I've definitely been working on a couple songs that are more like songs that I already sing. They're sort of like folk songs where I can do like a little turnaround or a little walk down or something, a little bit more than just strumming, or where I can pick a little bit, or just to increase my sort of right hand repertoire a little bit. So that's sort of where my growth edge is right now. It's not very much. But if you have any ideas for like how I can find the right balance between just noodling and, you know, finding comfort in the guitar versus actually like challenging myself to learn a little bit. Um,
I
I'd love
wish I had something to offer on that. I think I'm a chronic noodler myself. So like just finding some parasympathetic nervous system activation from it. Yeah, I definitely experienced that, but I don't have any good strategies for like really moving forward. I wish maybe, you know, or get you know, acquiring deeper skill, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So if you figure something out, let me know.
So when you're working on getting better at something, like when you're at that frustration point where you're like learning a song and you want to play it better, what do you do?
Uh, I don't know how to answer that. Maybe just not succeed. I don't know, actually. Yeah, I have the same problem, so I don't have much to offer there, really. I think I'm at that same stage where it's like I can use the music to settle the soul, but
Mhm.
yeah, not much else.
Okay. Yeah, because I know that back in the day, you did a lot of like very focused practicing when you were a kid.
Yeah, I think I also got stuck then too, where I would rehearse a single piece for multiple years and not make much progress.
Mhm. Wow, that's really
Yeah.
interesting.
But then also I think in the context where I did have progress was the orchestra, where there was a timeline and a pace, and every year you had a concert to give, and there was a person leading it, and you were there every day, 5 days a week. So that was guided. So you stumble through those basically. You're never really prepared when you hit the stage, and then there's the next year in different pieces.
That's so interesting. So actually that was really helpful in the sense that it sounds like the way you grew was to be part of a group.
Yeah, absolutely. I took a jazz class also at Cabrillo, and he kind of emphasized that it's like, you uh, Ray, that you're introduced to new pieces, you pick them up, you perform before you're ready, and you go on to the next piece.
Mhm. Mhm. Interesting. Thanks. Ruben, what do you think?
Specifically with music, I would say similar things where pretty much my entire life, or at all chapters of my life, I've wanted to have music be a part of my life. But the only times that it actually has was when I was part of a band or part of a group. That it's wishful thinking on my part. I've seen the pattern. I'm not actually going to get anything done if I don't have strict accountability with someone.
Mhm.
In terms of learning something that's tough, the two techniques that I have is right now I'm learning new stuff with my game, venturing out into unexplored territory. And I often have to remind myself that I am capable of learning, that even if it doesn't feel like I'm progressing, that I've learned many things in the past, and if I just keep on trying, I will learn it again.
Mhm.
And the other half of that is also envisioning how cool it will be when it's done. That I just the great satisfaction that I will get from having it under my belt. That if I'm hitting the frustration point where there's no short-term reward for my effort, I have to really drill into myself. Well, yes, that's just what learning is. It doesn't feel like there's a short-term reward because there's not. There's a long-term reward.
Right.
So I just remind myself that um, I'm in it for the long haul, not for having a fun afternoon. And to
Right.
go back to your original question of how to push from just having fun to working, I think that ties in a lot to just how well everything else is going, where you just having a sense of your energy reserves and being like, I need to take care of myself and I'll just have fun with music versus I'm feeling pretty good. Let's push it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. In terms of the pandemic project, and speaking of that, like, how am I going to know how much I can reasonably expect to accomplish in the next 5 weeks? The answer is I don't have any idea. I've got
Mhm.
zero idea, which is kind of liberating in a way, because I think the meta thing that I want to play with is intrinsic motivation and learning. So, um, I was talking to a client earlier today who was saying, I don't have any hobbies. And she said, I do this terrible thing where I want to learn something new. And I do this crazy, like, deep dive, and I do all this research and I do all of this reading and I learn all about it. And I try it one time and then I've learned about it. So I move on to something else. And she said, I just never get any of the hobbies. So I learn about this thing, I get ready to do it, I do it once and I move on. And I said, I think learning about new things is your hobby. She burst into tears.
It's
She
a
burst
meta
into
hobby.
tears because she was like, I didn't think that that was a valid thing to call a hobby, but it's totally,
Extremely useful hobby.
Mhm.
it's the best hobby of all. It's my very favorite hobby. We call that, Damien and I call that Mackenzie Phillipsing, because one time when we were first dating, I went away for the weekend and I came home and Damien was like, hey, did you know this about Mackenzie Phillips? And I was like, no, that's interesting. And then going on with my life, and he was like, oh, and did you know this about Mackenzie Phillips? And I was like, oh. no. And it turned out that he had spent the entire weekend on the couch learning everything there was to learn about Mackenzie Phillips for like no good reason. He just like, that's where his brain went, you know? And I mean, Mackenzie Phillips singing is an amazing pastime. It's the best. So, but when it comes to something like music, where I have a little bit of an intimidation factor and some stories that I tell myself about whether I'm really a musician if I just sing, or if I'm really a musician if I don't really understand music theory or whatever. One of the things I've noticed about myself that I find really interesting is if Damien's figuring out a song on the guitar and he plays a chord that's slightly wrong, like off by one string, one note, I hear it and I could sometimes go back and like sing the note that's wrong and say, no, you need this note. Not always, not perfectly, but I know I can hear. But when I play guitar for myself, I tend to be very not adventurous about figuring things out for myself that would sound good. Instead, I like look at the chords on the computer and I say like, you know, whatever, B flat. I'm going to do that chord now, and I'm going to strum it, and then I'm going to strum the next chord. And there's very little. It's more like paint by numbers rather than any kind of, you know, if they don't tell me to do a walk down, I might decide to do it. If they don't tell me hammer on, whatever, I'm not going to find those things by myself very easily. So I think I'm going to maybe switch to looking at like learning chords as step one, but then maybe playing along with the record, or like trying to really listen deeply to what people are doing, figuring out how they do it and trying to figure out how to do it for myself, and or using YouTube to help me figure out how people do it. And that might elevate things for me a little bit. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I just talked myself through that.
Nice.
Yep, that's my plan. So my goal for the next 5 weeks is to pursue my intrinsic curiosity about music and to start to try to translate my excellent listening skills into some better technical skills to actually make music that sounds more like music.
Sounds pretty good.
In my leisure time.
I had another thought about you know, kind of pushing the growth. So there is one other context for me that has worked, but just occasionally, which is I've recorded songs, a few songs in my life, you know, actually multi-track down onto, you know, something. So maybe 4 times or 5 times, you know, individual songs over the course of all these decades. Yeah. But that is a concrete thing that moves me forward, and sort of kept an accountability and a goal and a reward. That worked.
I've done that a couple times too, and it's really humbling.
Yeah, and fun.
Like, as a singer on GarageBand, I've done like, I wrote my cousin a song one time, Demetria, who I think Ruben, you met. I don't remember if Mark was there when Demetria was there or not yet. But I wrote Demetria a song one time, and I recorded like all the harmonies on different tracks, and I think I even played guitar on a track. So yeah, that's a good idea.
It's so fun.
But medicine for sure, but good medicine, I think.
You something you mentioned about, who was Mackenzie?
Mackenzie Phillips. She was like the daughter of one of the Mamas and the Papas, and she was then in a 1970s situation comedy called One Day at a Time.
Oh my gosh, Med's mama used to watch One Day at a Time. Oh my God, I've watched so many hours of One Day at a Time.
Yeah, well, she was the super skinny one with the curly, the like light brown curly hair. The not quite as pretty as Valerie Bertinelli one.
Anyways, there's an album, one of my favorite albums, called Zipless, which is from a singer named Vanessa Dow.
Oh, huh.
and the lyrics in that album, one of my favorite albums by Erica Young. I don't know. Anyways, but there's one of the songs that describes precisely what you were saying about Mackenzie Phillips, and I was trying to find it and the failing, but the song is practically about that story you told, which was sort of interesting.
Mhm. Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
I'll have to look her up.
I'll send you a link. This is the album cover.
Oh, okay.
It's light blue, super awesome album. The whole thing is incredible.
Oh, wow.
Vanessa Dow, Zipless, yeah.
Would not have known how to spell that. Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, I think I'm good. Unless anybody has any last words of advice.
Yeah, hard to say. I guess it is the nature of the starting point is you set a plan and then it's just see how it pans out, come back next week, see what works, what didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the core part of the plan is so central and fundamental to music. You're seeking to, have it, serve this purpose in your life of kind of, calm or changing the neurology firings. And it has a fundamental use in that,
Yeah.
Someone even said that, I think it was Robert Anton Wilson, that a spiritual practice or religion, they all use music. And you can almost measure the efficacy of a particular spiritual practice by how effectively it uses music in that way. And in a sense that's its sort of central purpose in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I just had two thoughts as you were saying that. One was, yeah, it's interesting. I'm doing all roots, no branches, but it's just the nature of growing that if you put a lot of energy into roots, branches are going to come out.
Yeah.
That's number one. And the other thing I thought of randomly is, for so long, Westerners sort of made fun of people around the globe who sort of adopted Christianity and mouthed Christian hymns without really understanding them. And that was part of the whole exoticization of the other. And then I just thought about all of my hippie friends doing kirtan and thinking there's something really wonderful about imitating someone, you could call it cultural appropriation, but something about resonating with another culture's music and spirituality and taking that on. There's something really sweet about that, I think. So random, but thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I actually had another idea too, which was and you reminded me of it when you're talking about how Damien has his guitar by his side, but same with you, the idea of nudge, where if you want to get it done, just really focus in on what barriers exist, identify them, and if possible, take care of them when you're planning, not when you're acting.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Good call. Yeah.
Take care of them when you're planning, not when you're acting. Nice.
Yeah. Ruben and I do a lot of talking about disambiguating planning and acting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
Okay, who wants to go next?
Well, Ruben, you and I took a whole bunch of time, which was so incredibly useful, and thank you so much for that. That was super, super valuable. So please, after you.
Yeah, well, I'm the current thing that I'm focusing on right now is seeing I use the metaphor of the shining star that my trajectory is towards, in the sense of a dream that will probably soak up as much time as I give it. So if that is my main priority, I will never do anything else. So I kind of have to hash out everything below it, to take care of business before I get to the faraway star that I'm chasing. So finding the line of exactly how much time should I dedicate to everything else that isn't my dream has been an ongoing challenge. The biggest one being the theory itself behind stuff, like how to pay attention to attention, how to get on top of stuff with executive function and interruptions and the documentation process behind all of it. Because there's kind of an infinite amount of time that I could spend doing these things, and it is technically a fundamental part that I want to address before progressing onwards to the star that I'm chasing. But I have to put a limit on it, because if not, then I'll just spend all my time doing that instead of the other project. So having the balancing act, yes.
Is the Shining Star the specific project, the Fall Creek game, or is it more meta than that?
Yes, so it's actually it's kind of two-tiered, because there is the Fall Creek is what I see right now as a Shining Star, where I have a time window, and within that time window, every extra hour of time goes towards that. And extra hour of time is basically, I'm just defining it as there's this foundation set of things that I have to be doing. And that it's hard to define that. That's kind of what I'm struggling with. And then there's a Shining Star, and then once I pass that, there's the bigger trajectory. But for now, I'm trying to keep the scope down.
Makes sense.
So the easy fundamentals is stuff like stuff like making food, doing the dishes, etc. It's stuff that I have to plan out, because naturally I will not do it. So I have like a very solid plan for all of that. And then a solid plan for stuff like correspondence, where if I do not have a good system for talking to my friends, I neglect them. And then after that, it is the kind of mysterious prep work, where it is how much of the design process do I document? How much of the strategy do I document? How much do I share with Snack? How long an essay do I write? And in fact, I was going to bring this up with you, Hannah, of the idea of the library, that right now I think we aren't using it that much, and I would like to start using it. So
yes,
kind of having that be like a tangible goal for kind of offloading articles based on some set of ideas that I'm just to reference, so that I say something and then I just include links to the library whenever it's relevant.
Yes, good idea.
Yeah, that's all one big jumble of, I realize that it is its own project, finding the extent to which I focus on that, and then when to cut it off. And because if I don't have a cutoff time, then the free time to travel towards the Shining Star is zero. I will spend an infinite amount of effort on the prep work. So I need to kind of hash that out. And there's no easy way to do it, because it's subjective. It's just kind of up to my own sense of how much is enough. Yeah, but that was, I noticed that after.
That does that too. Just like, yeah, the fact of the prep work actually being endless, literally.
Yes.
Is yeah, it's hard to just get your brain around.
Yeah.
Like, well, what do I do then?
Yeah. So one strategy that I've been working, which so far is pretty useful, is to have just split it down by days, where I will have a day that is entirely devoted to cleaning and organizing of all of the ideas, and kind of just doing an inventory of all of the things that have spiraled out of control and working on them. And if I don't get to it, that's it. That was my chance for that week. I will get back to it next week. So far that's pretty good. Nothing has spiraled out of control yet, so I'll keep doing it until something goes wrong. But it's been a continual process of, well, I'll try this, it doesn't work, I'll try this, doesn't work. And
so when you say the cleaning and organizing of ideas, is that the sort of meta prep stuff that you're talking about?
No, sadly, because that would be good, but no, it is. It's basically busy work, like cleaning in the literal sense. If I just look around my room and there's like clean off all the surfaces, like I have papers everywhere, I have pens everywhere. So that's just like literal, is stuff in its place. And then the organizing, I have ideas, is the same thing. We're in physical space. like I have a stack of papers that is for Fall Creek, and I have a stack of papers that is for Blobs here, and then I have a stack of papers that is for just notes that I take with conversations with my friends, and making sure that everything is accessible, because most of my adult life has been just everything's in a pile, and when
Yeah.
I need it, I will sift through it. And I don't think that's the best way to live. So my tolerance for disorder is very high. I'm not bothered by disorder. So I have to make a conscious effort to kind of keep it at bay.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
You're doing a day of that work, and then that means the other days, are you still keeping sort of a like a technology Sabbath day?
yes, yes, yes. And yeah, I have that too, where I have my days where I just disconnect from everything, which is Saturday, which that's right now, that's my favorite thing that I've discovered. I can't believe that it took me so long to do it.
Yeah.
What a neat idea.
Yeah, I do think I think and I hope that it will become mainstream as more people realize how many parallels there are with connection to internet and stuff like drug use or addiction in general. It's powerful. It's powerful, and people are preaching against it, and there a lot of people see them as like Luddites or whatever. But it's, even if you are very pro tech, you have to acknowledge some of the effects, psychological effects that come of it.
Yeah.
The etymology of the word Luddite is really interesting. If I got it right, it was people who are against weaving machines. When the weaving machines came in, it looked like they were going to displace all the jobs, and the people who were against it were the Luddites.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So misguided anger against tech. First of all, you can argue misguided, but destroying something that people have made, that everyone thinks is good and some people think it's bad, then they seem out of touch. But I think we will get to a point where everyone recognizes that it does have some deep consequences to be connected all the time.
Right. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's fundamentally, and the other direction is things like, have you heard about Elon Musk and brain implants and
Oh,
stuff?
wow.
Some of the stuff.
Yes, of course, absolutely. Neuralink.
Yeah, Neuralink.
Mhm.
Yeah. He did it to a bunch of pigs,
Wow.
actually,
Huh.
and did this whole presentation where they were trying to get the pigs to come out, and yeah, kind of crazy.
Did you see the one with the monkey?
I heard about the monkey. The monkey was like playing video games or something, right?
Yeah, basically the monkey has a controller and he's controlling the video game. He learns to play the video game.
Mhm.
And then they have the implant, and then they disconnect the controller.
And the
And
monkey plays with his brain.
he's still using the controller, but
Mm.
you see the cable dangling and not connected, and it still works.
Wow. Those science fiction authors have been warning about this for a long time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's interesting to think about, yeah, how you can completely disconnect and what it means to. And I think you're really onto something there, Ruben.
Me too.
Taking that break. So you've got a day to sort of organize your stuff. You've got no tech day.
Yes. And then I have another.
About play, really, right?
Yes. The other, well, it's, there's the no tech day, which is specifically that's the goal of the day, where no matter what I do, it's a good day as long as I don't use tech.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is the day for play, which is I try to foster creative thought in ways that don't accomplish anything, where it's just exercising. It's the practice of putting attention on something, but making sure that it doesn't matter. And the psychology behind that is some of it's intuitive, but some of it is also the idea that there is there's something of a conditioning response to exercising attention itself, that if attention is always associated with a stressful activity, there is the association of attention being work, being stressful, being that there's consequence tied to attention itself. And I'm trying to distance that, where attention is actually, it's very fun. That is the flow state where you find something that is just enjoyable. And ideally, if you are designing your life, ideally you find a flow state where your flow is also something that is productive, that earns you money. But it's just as important to find flow states that do not do anything at all, where you're just kind of just chilling, just being mindful.
Right. Yeah, and you can burn out on the workflow state if you don't also cultivate that.
Yes, it's very dangerous.
Yeah. It's like too much tech. Too much work is like too much tech. It's another way to fry your brain.
Yeah.
if I'm counting right, that leaves you 4 work days.
Mhm. Yeah, which is it's good to me. And I think
Day, a play
honestly,
day, what's the other one?
yeah, there is the disconnect day, there is the play day, and then the third one is the cleanup day, where it's just taking
Yeah.
care of, basically taking care of my house, taking care of the stuff that gets out of hand, and it's I don't know, like appointments, but all the stuff that life brings. I do a little bit every day, but one day of the week to make sure that I'm caught up on all that stuff. And then yes, 4 days for work, which I could probably even do 3 days for work, because if I'm defining work as specific Fall Creek Chase the Star stuff,
Uh-huh.
I don't need that many days. If they're concentrated work hours, I can get unimaginable amounts of stuff done if it's clean work. It's when there's all these little interruptions that I really that the hour of time doesn't give you an hour, it gives you half an hour or even 10 minutes, depending on how bad things are.
Yeah, that's the whole Pareto principle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the current stage of that very long process of kind of isolating all of the different task categories in my life and trying to find out just how much do I have to dedicate to the things that are nuisances, for lack of a better word, and how many things how much of my resources can I devote to the things that are just pure joy. And
Well, and it sounds like the whole executive function / snack, like all of that stuff is in this really weird space because it is that sort of creative joy work, but it's not the star. It's kind of like
Yeah.
scaffolding up to the star.
Mhm.
And that was your original reason for getting interested in it.
Sort of sharing the star with others.
That too, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it is I guess a special amount of attention paid to the documentation of it, because it's stuff that I've been in the practice of just doing, but without having that, without turning the light back on itself. It's like what we were talking about in the Design Your Life, of being aware of the moments that give you energy and the moments that take energy. You can be having, it doesn't really matter what's going on with that, but just being aware of it by itself is the first huge step. So that's the same principle with snack, where I just want to be, if I can put it down in words, then I am one step closer to truly understanding it. So yeah, just having a socially enforced documentation process.
Right. So where do you create that?
Yeah, that's a good question, because one day a week isn't ideal because I want to have periodic updates. So one thing that I tried today was just start every day off with that start. Have an outline for the day, which is main topics that I will do, and then assess of that outline how much of those are, which of the outline topics are steps and which of the outline topics are projects. Because I used to do just to-do lists for the day, but it wasn't working. And I think that the reason that it wasn't working is often when I did my to-do list, I would have 2 things that were like super easy, like, I don't know, take out the trash or whatever, where I don't even have to think about it. Then one thing, which was, for example, post a snack, that wasn't an action. That is a whole project to figure out, okay, what am I saying today? How do I say it? And how do I relate it to the greater body of all of my ideas? How does it set up my next post? Just all these things. So, well, we've discussed it, Hannah, but that I hit a really good point when I did a flow chart last Monday, I believe, or last Wednesday, where it kind of set the roadmap. So all subsequent ones are significantly easier now. And then I think I'll just keep doing that, where this post on Friday hopefully will lay out the next little bit of railroad in front of me, where the pattern all makes more sense.
Right. So what I hear you saying is that you made a big time investment to create that flow chart. It has led you to find a pattern that's going to make it easier to have like a heavyweight day and then more just sort of quick maintenance days throughout the rest of the week, which then can shift the balance to like maybe a heavier snack day and then Fall Creek days with a little bit of like necessary or at least prep work that you want to do.
Yeah.
But it won't sort of derail the following the star.
Yes, yes. And it's still kind of an experimental process because I don't know. I have this perception in my head of where things will go with Snack. And to me, it seems very clear, but things always seem very clear. It's always harder than I think. So I have my model and I'm going to try it out. And then in the process of trying out, I assess, okay, does this working according to the way I envisioned? Likely it will not. So that's kind of another just recalibration. But I feel confident in how it goes that I have, or tonight, I guess tonight I will finalize the post that I have. And I think that post will set the direction for my post and Snack in general, because I have the flow chart, which is kind of the outline. And then the next step is to create an instance of the outline. Like if I'm following the outline or following the plan, what does one step in the plan look like?
Right.
And then once I finish that, if it feels right, if I can keep following that plan, then I keep going in that direction. But if it feels wrong, then I have to go back to the beginning and say, I tried to execute my outline this way. For whatever reason, it wasn't matching the vision in my head. So I'm gonna do round 2.
So what I find myself wondering is, your initial question was, how do I right size the meta stuff? How do I honor my interest in it and my belief that this can actually serve me in some way, while understanding that it's the scaffolding, not the cathedral.
Yes. So I've been using kind of abstract language. To use specific language, there's the 3 components that I always talk about, which is the cost, the resource cost, the resource cost, the plan, and the benefit. And the plan is really just how do resources turn into returns on investment. And then within those 3 categories, there's a lot of terms that I use that I don't define. So for example, with resource cost, I talk about attention as a resource. That makes intuitive sense to me, just like how attention is limited, but I haven't really put down the language of exactly how does the phenomenon of attention interact with stuff. So the tiers that I'm thinking of doing is writing a lot about attention itself as a phenomenon, as kind of the base tier, and then a bunch of other stuff like different types of rewards or different types of plans, like just in general terms, what I mean when I say a plan, or what I mean when I say attention or reward or cost. And then after that, have examples, have applications of if the foundation is what this word means in the abstract sense, then the examples would just be like, oh, when I'm doing a project, this is how maybe I was having trouble, and then I changed how would I phrase it? Or I noticed that my attention wasn't being directed in the right way, or I don't know, any number of things, but just keeping an ear open in my own work and seeing when examples of the terms that I previously defined become relevant enough to do an article about them.
Right. Okay. So is it okay if I make an observation?
Yeah, please.
You're trying to figure out how to right size the scaffolding work. You're very interested in following the star. And we're doing all of the talking about how to make the scaffolding. So is that evidence that you're so clear on how to follow the star that you just have to deal with this little annoyance? Or
that's a good point. Right now, the current stage that I'm in with the game is it's kind of a form of play where I'm using new software, and I'm seeing, okay, if I have something I want to execute, am I familiar enough with the tool that I can just do it? And some of the time it's yes, some of the time it's no. And when it's no, I look up a solution for how to do that thing. So it's kind of, it's very good for just filling in blocks of free time, where I just do the next thing on my list, like, oh, I was going to create this page that looks like this. Can I do it? If I spend 10 minutes on it, I have 10 minutes of progress. So it's kind of the ideal activity to use for filling up holes in time. So at the stage I'm in, I feel like it's an automatic process, and I will hit a point where I need to do some deep thinking again. And I'm just hoping that the timelines will coincide, where once I figure out the Snack thing, or hopefully I will figure out the Snack thing before I get to the big problems in the game stuff.
So on the game progress, it sounds like you are organized enough, more than me, to have kind of a queue. And so the free time, basically, like you've said, sort of separate the planning and the execution of the action. So you have a queue already, a time window occurs, and you can just apply that to the queue. You don't actually have to think about the plan. You
Yes,
can just
yes.
take the
So
next thing, execute, and they have 10 minutes of progress in 10 minutes.
yeah, so I've fully drafted out how I want scenes to look, or pages, and then I just have to, if I have the blueprint, I guess is one way to call it. It's just a little bit of it is really just playing. Like, can I use the tool of Unity to shape the screen to look like what I want it to look? And then once I do that, can I shape the functionality so that it does what I want it to do? And then it's just a list. I have a lot of pages that I have to get through. And then once I'm done with that, then that will be like the big assessment of like, okay, now comes the game design itself. And that's the big one. But yeah, I'm in a very comfortable point in terms of cognitive demand for the game, where it is busy work, it's execution.
So part of this is that you want to get this flow figured out for the side project, so that as the cognitive load of the main project intensifies, you can just make sure that that's not getting out of hand.
Yes. So there was the option of kind of just firing off stuff as it occurred to me for Snack, but I wanted to kind of, if possible, front load it, where I came up with the whole system first, and then I could create instances from that system as time progresses. And then if luck works out, then I'll have that done. And then when I switch back to the other problem, Snack has become an automatic process by that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is, it's a little optimistic, but yeah.
So speaking of which, given that your pandemic project is Fall Creek,
yeah,
and given that this mastermind is a place for us to come together and give each other support and ideas and stuff, what would you want us as your team to say if you found yourself getting derailed by?
Ooh, that's a good question. And the best way would actually to be, and this wasn't something I planned for, but it's something I should have, is to have a very easy, tiny deadline every week for the project, where it's a shareable thing, where if all goes as planned, I should easily hit this point. And if I'm not hitting that point, then that's bad. That means that I've messed up and I am deluding myself.
Okay.
Yeah. So
you need a plan for the main project to make sure that you're really meeting benchmarks.
Yeah.
If my experience with my mom taught me anything, it is that, when you have a group of people who are like passionate, and even if it's a very small group of people who are passionate and wanting to do something together, if your ability to participate flags at all, if the group is healthy, it might change the way the group looks, or how neat and tidy the product ends up being the first time around. And that's like totally okay.
mm-hmm.
So you could show up having done 0 posts, having had, made 0 contributions to the
No, I would. I'm confident that I would still I would be willing. I think I'm very comfortable. I hope it's part of my identity is being very comfortable with sharing my when things don't go as planned. I do love, I thrive on that, I think.
Good.
So, yeah.
Because I mean, the core of what we're doing, I think, is just showing up for each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And sometimes we can't even show up. Right?
Yeah.
Ruben and I have been holding down the ground. It's been fantastic.
I know, and
I feel very lucky. I'm like, I'm making out like a bandit from the group.
Yeah, well, that's lovely. So what are your takeaways from what we just talked about?
that I should be using the accountability of the group where I have this plan and it seems like a pretty good plan. But as long as the plan's all in my head, it's very hard to get a sense of how successful I'm being. So I should have some external factors where just metrics to check, like this thing was the plan, did it happen? Yes, no. Versus in my head, if it's all like that, I feel like I'm hitting every benchmark, but it's hard to see until it's exactly down on paper, week by week, what should be happening.
Okay. So one of the things I'm hoping to do is I had automated a couple of check-in points for Snack before, my family stuff. I want to go in this weekend and automate some check-in times that just prompt us to give a little bit of an update.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I will do that. Bless you, I think. And maybe we can all use that to sort of say, like, this is where I want to be. This is where I am.
Yeah, I really liked it for I think it was the first week or maybe the second week where we had just sharing our brainstorms, just stuff like that, where there's some shared language that we all have, how it applies to our project.
Yes. Well, given that this is the halfway point, I think it would be cool to share maybe just, as you write down what you think your weekly targets are. There, I mean, I guess there would be 5 weekly targets.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I love that idea.
So that's what I'll ask for, and I'm going to do the same thing. And anything else that you took away that?
Good question. A lot of it was kind of, well, you know how it is, just talking stuff out, of realizing that this is what I wanted instead of, or this is my situation and this is the situation I want, and what are the differences?
Right.
Like the idea of having, just having clearly marked distinct times for different activities, or it's something that has been working for me. And then, so of course I should apply it to my new challenge, but it hadn't clicked. So that's good.
Great. Also sounds like you've done some work that you think is going to pay off in terms of the efficiency.
Yes.
So is it okay with you if we check in next week to see if that worked out the way you hoped, or if you,
that would be awesome.
Yeah, if you're
those are 2 good things. Where one, I guess the first one in the broad sense for everyone is just to have some vague breakdown on a weekly basis of what big plans are. And then the other one is if my Snack efficiency did indeed pan out the way I expected.
Right. Yeah, if you're like on the floor with the IKEA instructions for scaffolding, we can troubleshoot with you next week. Yeah. Okay, cool. Oh my goodness, we have 6 minutes. I'm willing to stay longer, Mark, if you need more time, but.
Yeah, all's good. It was nice to listen. I got so much attention earlier today. Ruben and I were, Ruben came on as a tester. The last week I had as one of my primary goals was bringing on new blood, new early adopters. And that was challenging. I kind of ended up with not much or anything. And I had sort of 2 kind of possibilities, but then Ruben really came through. So that kind of turned around. And also I looked at the Apple keeps some records, so I can actually see what people have installed. And I hadn't looked, and I actually 3 of my testers, 2 new ones installed. My nephew did some sessions, and Ruben dove into early adopter testing, and he just got so much deeper than anyone yet has. And I've got 10 people on my internal lists so far. And so I had this realization of something that I wanted but hadn't gotten, which was really someone who had looked at all the nooks and crannies. He even looked at the tutorial, like the documentation, which is like, oh my God, no one's looked at that before. That's so great. And he tried every button and every slider. And anyways, I'm just feeling really grateful, and I got some really good feedback there. And I don't know, for me, for my particular personality type, that's like fuel that I can kind of take to the bank. I'm not sure why that is for me, but it seems to be a thing.
You're not working in a void anymore. I mean, I get it. It's huge.
Yeah, it seems really important. So
Oh,
so
that's lovely.
yeah, so that's been great. I did write a little bit onto the internet.
I
Some
saw
people-
your
Yeah.
that.
some people
Thank
do that. They
you.
write things on the internet, and then the whole other people and the like whole world can like see them. It's kind of like, no, this was private stuff. Anyways,
The
I'm
whole
not-
Patsy snack.
I am not used to writing things onto the internet. So yeah, I think I know all about those the digital addiction stuff for sure, but not in the social media arena, which I think a lot of people
Mhm.
have trouble with, or end up in a modality like that
Mhm.
for good or bad. I don't know.
Mhm.
But I'm excited about the project. I'm still kind of enjoying the benefits from a couple of weeks back, where I had just really had set a goal, really accomplished that goal of using the app as if I was a real user. So that paid real dividends,
Mhm.
and I'm still kind of going from there.
Yeah, cool.
And how
So-
does
Oh, go ahead, Ruben.
how does Hannah's suggestion fit in with the way you're feeling about your project of having over the next next week have a basic idea of what the next 5 weeks look like?
Yeah, terrifying. I'm not going to do it. Yeah, that's a really good idea. I mean, I wanted the time of 10 weeks was so resonant with kind of what I was planning and hoping when we started. That really aligned with what I wanted to do. I really did want to have a fairly concrete conclusion at the end, and here 5 weeks in, and it just seems so easy to lose a week or 2 or 3 to chaos and life and all those things. The 5 weeks looks really just daunting, and I do want to have a pretty concrete goal realized by the end, even if I reframe what that goal is. So yeah, too scary, not doing it. No, I'm kidding. I will try.
That's a good point, because it is unironically probably or possibly too scary for me too. Where a 5 week goal, especially like that, is very intimidating. So there should probably be maybe tiers to it, where you have the end goal, and then in 1 week, and then those other in between weeks. If you're feeling it, fill them out. If not, then say, okay, I've got my starting point. I'll just discuss with the group maybe for the rest of the outline.
No, I'm getting a lot out of being challenged about my process and executive function, and for me, just having ideas isn't enough, really. I really value execution and completion, and actually publishing. Those concrete things are very important. But so I mean, I do have a very clear goal of what I wanted at the end, which was released to the public, released to the App Store. It's a huge goal. So then the secondary goal is actually a really nice fallback, which is the public beta. And there's that shouldn't be that hard to reach, except there's a very substantial barrier there, which is that if I cross from an internal testing, which we're doing, to an external testing, from private beta to public beta, Apple reviewing, a human being at Apple seeing the product, reviewing the product, approving it for the public beta. First time that Apple, a human being, will put their eyes on this project. And so that's fairly daunting, and I need to be a bit careful about various things. So that is that's the big psychological barrier for me that I have to surmount to reach that goal.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So how could we serve as helpers in your gut check about whether that's the right thing to do when the time comes?
You mean whether that's the right goal?
No, I mean whether you're ready. It's got to be the goal, right? Like at some point you've got to cross that hurdle if you're going to publish the game, right?
Yeah. There were two thresholds. So just clarifying in my mind. So releasing as an app to the public, as I've done before. That's of course the final goal, and then that intermediate of just a public beta.
Public beta. But do you have to do a public beta, or could you skip it and just go straight to the live game?
Definitely can skip it. I've never had a public beta phase. Actually, you know what? I think if I look at my products that I have released to the public, I think I've never had a private beta phase either. So, you know, there is a goal that this product is more professional, and that it represents growth in my creative process and releases to the public. And so having these earlier phases, beta phase is kind of part of that. So definitely, yeah, one could just go straight to release to the public and skip all of the, beta phase. And there is actually some pretty good logic to that, which is, you're gonna land with your app exposed to users, and it's going to need refinement. There's going to be mistakes you didn't think of. No product plan can survive exposure to the actual users. There's quotes like that. So there is some logic in saying just release it, take your blows, and refine from there. But yeah, I'm doing a little beta testing earlier on instead.
So, okay, I think I get that. So it's
I don't know if I answered the question, but
no, you did. You definitely did. It's optional to do the beta test, and it sounds like there are pros and cons to both strategies. I guess my only
really hard to know which is the right one. I can't claim that I know, but I haven't tried it this way before.
So you know how Ruben and I have been using sort of essays on Snack to hammer some stuff out?
Yeah, I wrote kind of a long thing, but I think it ended up on a comment of yours, which is maybe not the right way.
No, I found it.
Not the right way to do the writing on the internet thing.
It was a great way to do the writing on the internet. Yeah, I was just thinking like, I was sort of thinking like, when could we go through a discernment process to help you figure out whether you want to do the beta or just jump to the game, or are you going to figure that out some other way? Or
I'm fairly committed to the public beta because it is a process that it could be very useful, in another project, could be utterly essential, could turn out to be totally essential. It just hasn't been part of my process yet. And so I need the data point that it is or isn't useful for such a thing.
So you are going to do the public beta, and maybe what we can help with is to help you to suss out whether you're ready to
Okay.
deploy it. Is that?
Yeah, an assessment of whether it's ready to deploy to the public beta. Actually, that would be a very actually a very useful measurement for early adopters for me. Yeah, that's a good insight, actually. Because I love refining things, but I can polish forever. And what I've recently discovered and described before is polish can take a lot of time, but then it can be replaced completely the next day or the next week by another long process of polishing. And then so I've started to learn that it's only the last one that counts in a sense. And so the polish, although it's unsettling for me, is left undone right now.
Yeah.
And so I think I'll need, an abrupt change of mind and modality to shift from that internal testing to being ready for that. So that extra little bit of polish before going public to the public beta would be useful input.
Got it. So yeah, it sounds like theme of the week is how do you know when it's finished? That's all anybody I'm talking to is talking about this week. That's cool.
It is a fundamental question for all creative people everywhere. Very, very hard to solve.
For all creative people, absolutely.
Only when it's absolutely perfect and you spent all of your time on it, and no, that can't be.
Try that. Doesn't work.
Doesn't work. I'm kidding.
Yeah, you know that Talking Heads song, right? David Byrne.
Which one?
Letting the days go by, water flowing underground. Once in a lifetime, when he says, "You can't see it until it's finished."
Oh wow! I didn't even know that was part of the lyrics. I got to go look it up. That's a great song.
Yeah, it's a great song. Yep. Anyway.
Right? He's like.
Excuse us, Ruben. These are Gen Xers having a moment.
I do know Talking Heads. I don't know that song though.
It's a great song. Anyway, once in a lifetime. Yeah. Are we complete?
I'd say so. I'll see if I can round up a person or two to join us, because it would be cool to have like the round 2 where there was the 10-week and now we're doing the shorter version.
I'll try too. The people I've brought on have, for one reason or another, not been able to keep going, but I'll put out feelers again.
Yeah. Oh, and also maybe hard to do this because you are going back to the East Coast, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So at one point we discussed a change in time.
Oh yeah.
But it is hard to find something that is convenient for
East
people
Coast.
who work on the West Coast and anyone on the East Coast. So,
well, I mean, I could see myself doing it at so right now this is 4 to 5, which would be 7 to 8. I could go 8 to 9 if an extra hour would make a difference.
yeah, I don't know if it would though. Well, at least the person that I was thinking, I think she's done working at 4:30, so it would be a tight squeeze. I don't know. I'll talk to her.
Okay.
But, yeah.
We can. Yeah. I mean, if 5 to 6 your time works, I think much later than that, and I'd be deluding myself into thinking.
Yeah, that'd be too hard. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, it's great to see you. We should have like a secret, like maybe wear like fezzes or something and have secret handshake.
I am a fan of ritual.
Yeah, me too. All right.
Thank you so much, you guys. Really appreciate it. I'm getting a lot out of this. Appreciate it. It's great.
Me too. Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Thanks, listeners. Bye.
Bye.